All right, we're gonna hit some questions here. How are you feeling about the dodge button addition? So I'm gonna a request for everyone here, because a lot of you are frequently in the community. So a request from me to you. If you are talking about the evade mechanic we're adding, please use the term evade and not dodge roll, if possible, or both. But we really want to push the idea that this is it doesn't have iframes, and the term dodge roll, I think, sort of implies that it has iframes. So in order to make people not so if someone's just like comes into Reddit or comes into the forums and like checks it out and leaves, we want to make sure that it's that information is understood, and it is really easy to explain what it is at a core by using the term dodge roll, because it's a more common mechanic, and it's 99% that. And we did put it on the roadmap in parentheses, and so it's a bit of a gray area. But let's try and get the term evade out there as the term we're using for it, and we just got to be different, don't we? But if we're going to talk about how I'm feeling about the evade mechanic, I almost said dodge roll myself. If we're going to talk about the evade mechanic, I'm very pleased about it. It's also, the animation is unique, so it's not a roll for every character either. So part of the reason we're calling it evade too. It's not physically a roll, necessarily. As far as how I'm feeling about the mechanic itself, I'm feeling fantastic about the mechanic itself. It is one of those things that there was a lot of us that were firmly in camp, no dodge roll, no evade, and you know we got in there, we tried it, and it's just fun. Like, even if you change nothing else, it's just fun. It doesn't really have a huge impact on the actual like mechanics of most fights, because like if you're using that, you're not attacking, so like it's not just like an always better thing to do. And it's not like you always have to do it, but it just feels like combat flows a little bit better. It just feels like you're not I don't know, you're not starved for a quick repositioning in the battlefield, where you're like, oh, I wish I could take like a quick step that way without having to just like and like walking would feel a little cumbersome, and I don't want to burn my movement ability on just walking to the left a little bit. And this dodge roll just really, it fits nicely. It just feels good. So, when I was writing that post, that was one thing I tried to emphasize at the start, was that the focus of this is flow and feel, just like how combat feels when you're using it is the main goal for this change. What is Random Encounters Nemesis? It is a I don't know how much detail I can actually go into about what it is and how it functions and all that sort of stuff. I would say it is the easiest way to describe it is the next mechanic along the same overarching weight as Exiled Mages. So it is it integrates itself into the overall end game, and there's cool stuff that happens, and it is of similar weight, and it starts happening pretty early in your experience overall, and like it's something that is relevant later on in your experience as well. So it's like it's another piece of that like unexpected content that we've been working into the game. Regarding the endgame Pinnacle boss next cycle, will there be anything exclusive items tied to them, and how do you account for the more casual player that might not be able to do Pinnacle bosses? I hope there won't be too much fear of missing out involved. This is this is a very tricky and delicate balance to achieve. I agree. I don't think so given the stats that we've looked at with our the players that we've got in the game, and the stats on like who's killing which boss and all that sort of stuff, if we I think there might be a little bit of a misconception or disagreement on like where the line on the term casual is. If we're gonna put a line on how far a character gets as like, well, anything that can't do this is casual, anything that can do this is like hardcore or like try hard, and then everyone who does this is like no lifing it. If we're gonna put like lines on the progression map, like casual is probably like the line of like casual to like a more of a try-hard player is like, did you complete the campaign or not? Like, you know, if we're still gonna go for like extreme majority, like, did you complete a monolith map? Like, did you beat any timeline boss? You are still, you're like, you're way above 50%. I think. Like, it's just, I haven't seen those numbers exactly, but they're very, I do know that they're very lopsided in how far most people actually get into the end game. I think there's a bit of a misconception there on how far it actually is. But so people who are, we're designing the Pinnacle content such that if you are like, maybe I don't have a long time to play every day, but like I'm going to invest emotional or intellectual energy in doing this, and like I'll be able to get there eventually type thing. It is designed as, you know, Pinnacle content. So like if you're not able to complete what's already there as extremely hard static content, you know, you're gonna have a really long road ahead of you for completing the Pinnacle boss, right? Like, because the Pinnacle boss is it's a step up from T4 Julra. It is harder. You know, I think most people would be like, well, obviously, but a tiny percentage of players kill T4 Julra, right? So it is tricky there. And so one of the things we're trying to do is have the entire content have different stages of achievements and accomplishments. So there are like the Nemesis encounters tie into all of this, and that is one sort of stage of the accomplishments. Is, you know, like there's different stuff there that I can't talk about specifically, but like doing those things is part of the stages of accomplishments of this new content that's coming out. So there's stuff to do even if you're never going to hit, and there's relevant rewards for doing that content even if you're never going to make it to the Pinnacle boss, let alone beat it. And like there's other bosses too, and there's other challenges too, and like there's other things that happen. So like the harbingers that you see in there, you know, all that stuff it's a progressive system that is that there are different levels of achievements that happen, and there's and you can like opt into harder and harder stuff, and it's this idea of you know, players having room to challenge harder and harder content and still feeling rewarded for completing what they can complete. But there is stuff that I think, and there already is stuff that the majority of players won't ever be able to finish, which I know sounds kinda bad maybe, but I don't see a way that we could possibly make the hardest boss in the game, the Pinnacle achievement boss in the game, not be too hard for some players. Like that's I think that's just a given of the situation. And it's sort of like, okay, how hard do we actually make it? And that's something that we are really trying to be careful about and fine tune. And I think it's something that we're going to get a lot of feedback on and adjust going forward too. It's not something that and I say this basically every time we introduce a new system. It's probably not something we're going to get perfect on the first try. And I hope we've shown that we are prepared to make changes if what we're doing isn't working. But I'm quite confident that the system is rock solid. We just kind of got to see how people feel about the difficulty, I think. And because there's different types of difficulty that comes in with systems like this. Like you're just like the big part of the end game content of this boss is how hard is this fight? How hard is this boss fight? Like there is a culmination point. That there's not a lot of time really in that. There's not a lot of stages. There's not like there are. It's a big fight. And there's stages to the fight, but like there's not like like gameplay session spanning stages is what I'm trying to get at. So you're like when you go into that final boss, you're either finishing that final boss or you're not. You're not getting part way and then being like, okay, well I'll come back and finish the rest of it later. Which is the type of stuff that happens when you are working through the other parts of that system. And this is, I'm really just talking about like Pinnacle boss systems in general in RPGs right now. Don't have nothing really specific to us. Really hyped for the roadmap and every single thing mentioned there. Love at least so much any possibility for the Transmog system to be added earlier than 1.4. I mean, like there's always chances for movement on the roadmap. That was a huge part of that post, is us being like, you know, this is not set in stone, it's going to change. So maybe I'd be pretty shocked if that one moved up. That's technically possible. Don't get your hopes up on that though. All right, how does an endgame boss differ from a Pinnacle boss? I think there's a lot of terminology that really doesn't mean that much. In my mind, personally, the difference between a Pinnacle boss and an endgame boss is a Pinnacle boss is whatever the hardest endgame boss is the Pinnacle boss. So I think Pinnacle is a subset of endgame, subset of one. Will the Pinnacle boss have new loot that drops from it? Yes. Do I know anything about it? No. But we did get confirmation that Boss DR is being replaced in 1.1. So when you are fighting the new Pinnacle boss, this is a lot of these things that we're unveiling are specifically for the Pinnacle boss fight. So yes, the Boss DR replacement system was designed very much with Pinnacle boss in mind, and is coming so that Pinnacle boss fight is more fun, because the new system's a lot more fun than the old system. All right, so is there a planned Pinnacle race for 1.1? I think that the I don't think we have a prize structure for a race planned for 1.1 at the moment. I think a big part of it is we're still trying to get our footing when it comes to specific mechanics, specific the wrong way to put it, specific rollout structures, cycle structures, all that sort of stuff. So making sure that we're presenting new mechanics, or not presenting, the fumbling over this hard. The process by which we roll out a new cycle and the things that go with that, the timings, the who gets access to what, when, all that sort of stuff, because that's still in flux, we're really not super interested in too heavily incentivizing the competition aspect of it with some very enticing prize that could result in a hey, that's not fair, so and so won but they cheated type thing, and then what do we do? So I think, rolling the order you're rolling it out makes it not fair for these people, all that sort of stuff. And so I think we really want to get the flow of how we roll out new content, a little bit more experience in that with such a large group that has potential to complete it quite quickly and all that sort of stuff. I think we want to get that a little bit more solidified and confident with that before we start putting too much on the line just yet. But at the same time, I think it'll be a race. I think I think we've got some things to sort of push a race mentality a little bit. I don't think we're gonna have some one-time exclusive title for server first kills or anything like that for 1.1. The question is asking, is 1.4 the next time that new skills are going to come out? No, 1.4 is not the next time new skills are coming out. 1.4, there is a significant change to the skill system. We're adding in a new piece to the skill system called skill sigils. So that's gonna be an augment to the skill system overall. But there are updates to the skills coming in 1.1. So, yeah. There's just not any new skills coming in 1.1. And there will be new skills coming in other, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. New skills are back on the table for those. Yeah. We actually were just talking about that yesterday. I know you've talked about future factions being added before, but I'm wondering, what can you say about the future factions? when and what they may be. I'm also curious if you guys do a crafting guild, for example. Would the XP be gained by breaking down armor or crafting, or would the XP still be gained through killing monsters? So the faction system as a whole, like how factions work overall, it's like, yeah, there's a progress, a reputation progress that unlocks different ranks that do different things as you go. There's this favor that you generate by playing the game, or by some other method possibly too. But there's this favor that you generate, and you spend favor on things in the faction, which grants you reputation in the faction, which grants you more stuff you get in the faction. That really broad definition, that's a faction for us. That's as far as it goes. Every other thing is specific to whatever faction it is. So we are looking to add in new categories of factions, and you'll see those quite soon. Where you'll see like another category here that's like some other faction that sits here on its own that doesn't have another faction to go up against type thing, and it's really just a way of using this structure to clearly lay out progress in that system. That's really all it is. And by theming them as factions, we can have competing factions that become mutually exclusive. So sometimes we want to have mutually exclusive factions, and other times we don't. Can I give you any more information about what that specific next faction is going to be and how it's going to work and what it's going to do and all that sort of stuff? Absolutely not. I'm sorry. I'd love to, but you'll be getting information on that. Not too distant future, I think. Do social posts, that sort of stuff. Is the Pinnacle boss fight more mechanics based, or is there a point where gear and build, of course, will carry you through? There's quite a few mechanics involved in the fight, and if you are like really good at those mechanics, you can get through the fight with a very underprepared build. Like if you can push your skills in the matter to the extreme, like you can get away with a pretty poor build and still come out on top. It'll take quite a while because there's a big health pool and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, like there's quite a few mechanics there. If you have like really substantial equipment, there are certain mechanics in that fight you can trivialize. There are things that, like, if you have an extra like 1,000 health pool and like 50% damage reduction from endurance and full glancing blow and like you can't be crit, like you get all those defensive layers that stack on top, and there are certain parts of that fight that you won't take damage from anymore, or you'll take little enough damage that your sustain can get you back from, and stuff like that, and you'll have more time to attack, and so you can beat the fight faster and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, like you can, through gear, make the fight way easier. And this is something that we are still testing and trying to make feel really good, and have those, like, how much gear is too much gear to completely trivialize the fight. It was one of the builds, one of the test versions of the fight that we played about 2 weeks ago, I think. The tester character that we set up to try the fight was way too good at hard CC, and kind of trivialized the fight a bit. So we've made some changes there and stuff like that. So we're still working on fine tuning it and all that. But I think the goal with it is that it's going to be a tough fight regardless of your gear. You're gonna have to learn mechanics, and you're gonna have to remember things are coming, and you're gonna have to react to some mechanics here and there. And you can reduce the number of those mechanics that are relevant by getting better gear. And I think this is kind of like, I don't think I'm saying anything revolutionary. It's kind of true for all boss fights, really. Like, if you walk into Lagan with no gear on, you're gonna probably get one shot, But if you're like a god at dodging, you can get through that fight with basically no gear. Hey Ellie, hi. How you doing? I was wondering about the time frame for a console release. I know porting basically means making a new game in some cases, sometimes not being worth the time, effort, resources. So, are there any plans? Or, yeah, there's plans for. I'm running into a corner because I wasn't looking at the screen. We do have plans to expand into console spaces. We get every day I see players on some social platform being like, PlayStation when, Xbox when, come on, and it's something that we've intended to do from square one. This was always the plan, was to bring it to consoles eventually, and that's one of not the reason, but one of the reasons why we do have controller support already. Is it's gonna make going to console way easier. We're still evaluating which consoles we want to go to, what order we want to go to them, what time frame we want to do that in, all that sort of stuff. Still evaluating it. We don't like we're a pretty young studio overall. We don't have pre-existing relationships with Sony and Microsoft for console development, that sort of stuff. So like we still need to open up that those lines of communication, start talking, like all that sort of stuff. It's a bit of a process. We have a few people on our team now that have like launched console games with these companies, and they're like, if we're ever gonna do this, we need to start this process now because it takes a long time. So we're starting to evaluate like when we're gonna do this, how we're gonna approach it, all that sort of stuff. So the console expansion process is, I would say, extremely early beginnings ish. But yeah, it's not like we've got dev kits or anything like that yet. The big question that we're proposing to our community right now that we want feedback on is should any part of that be temporarily locked for legacy and offline characters? So the one piece of that we're suggesting for this for 1.1 is, hey, let's make the Pinnacle boss fight, just the final piece of the cycle content that's coming out, just the last step, the Pinnacle boss fight. Should that be locked until someone clears it in cycle? And there's more nuance to that question. There's more extra details, but there's a survey up on our forums. If you haven't taken that out yet, please go check it out. Just note that it is very specifically talking about just the Pinnacle boss. So like the Harbinger stuff, the Nemesis stuff, any uniques, any new skill balance changes, all that stuff is all just automatically included right away for both legacy and cycle. But yeah, it's just, is the boss fight only challengeable? And like this thing is, you can get to the point where one of the reasons why I really like it is that because there is other things in the cycle to do and other things to experience. If you're not gonna, if you aren't gonna play the new cycle character, and you want to experience this stuff with an existing character, you can do most of that content, like without getting to the Pinnacle boss yet. And like if you're slow, like some people, like me, you may not even get there in time. Like there are people that may start new characters and kill the Pinnacle boss before you even get to the Pinnacle boss. I know this will happen to me. So yeah, I think it's a really good survey, and I would encourage everyone to make their voices heard on that. I know it isn't going to be added or worked on for a while, but once you guys start to work on it, what is a new class, or what new masteries that you would personally love to see added? This is the problem. So I'm not going to give you specifics. I'm not going to give you specifics because I do know what some of the first classes are going to be, and they are the ones that I want to do in some cases. I think I think you can look at, I think you'll see a mix of like, oh, they're finally adding that class, and oh my god, they're adding that class, cool, type reactions to the different types of classes that come in. And like, oh, I never thought of a class like that. You know, I think there's going to be that sort of that spectrum that I hope you've come to expect from us. I'd really like to see I really like to target new like playstyle archetypes and thematic archetypes that we just don't have. I think there's some really obvious gaps in those. I'd probably be targeting specific weapon types as like thematic touchstones, but not exclusivities for new classes. You know, like go through other games and other ARPGs and look at class archetypes that we don't have right now. And those are all the games we grew up playing that we love and that we tend to draw inspiration from a lot just naturally because it's what we grew up playing. And you'll probably get a decent picture of some of the themes, at least, and playstyles that we're looking to integrate.